Since people don't have much time these days, you have to make it a little bit shorter even. As I said, we've developed a course in 3 lessons: soul, God, and action. They don't need to know. If they wanna go deeper, they can. But one of the things that people don't have is time. Their lives are so complex, so complicated. And as someone was saying, they come for the first lesson, but not afterwards. So let's have a minute of silence. I'm gonna do it a little bit differently here. This second lesson, I'm going to explain the whole sequence. Then as if I'm giving the course, I will do it, that lesson. Yeah? And that should be okay. That should be time enough. So just have some silence now. Just remember Baba. Om Shanti. So in this second lesson is about God. And it's a chance to explain also what Rajyoga means. It's a connection, the yoga that makes us kings, makes us sovereigns, but it's also the main yoga, like the principal yoga, the king of the yogas. And in that sense, it's the main connection that people should have. Of everything that we can connect with in the world, the highest connection, the most elevated connection is with the one we call God. Now, as I said, I'm going to go quickly through the concepts, and then I will explain it as I would explain it. Yeah? And then do the experience as well. So this session, you start with some silence and you explain. Just connecting it up with the previous lesson, because the people have finished the first lesson, now they're in the second lesson. So you can ask them a few things about what they learnt, of what stayed with them since the first lesson. But also, one concept that I did talk about was how the mind, whatever it's connected with, experiences that. So if you remember a mango, you can even remember the taste of the mango, the color of the mango, the juiciness of the mango. If I tell you to think about the sun, you can almost feel the heat, right? So of all of the things that we can connect with, the highest or the most elevated thing or object is the one we call God, or the one we call Allah. It's interesting that I had done this study of the different religions to see how much they thought or what they thought about God. This book I mentioned that I wrote together with 2 sisters from Canada, The God Experience, what we did was examine all of the different traditions and what they believed about God. And we took up the things that were common, that God is a source of peace. What else? Light, love, Bliss is not a common characteristic in all traditions. Purity, yes. Truth. Truth, definitely.
He's impartial.
But these are attributes. Qualities are different from attributes. Attribute is something that they do, or some ability that they have. But a quality is like more basic. Knowledge or truth, yeah. And in fact, in most tradition, in most cultures, when you're trying to figure out something, someone says, "Only God knows," right? And in most traditions, you'll find people saying, "Thank God." It's so common in Portuguese or Spanish, the Latin countries. They will always say, "Thank God."
In India also.
Huh?
In India also people say like this.
Yeah.
God.
What do they say?
Thank God.
Thank God? How do they say it in Hindi?
Yes.
Thank God okay, you use the English. Okay. Thank God.
Me? Yes, but
There's also the phrase God willing. And, you notice in the way that people talk. They will say, very common in Spanish and Latin, Portuguese country, French also maybe, Italian certainly. "I will see you tomorrow, God willing." And then they're not going to come because they've already blamed God. "I will see you tomorrow, God willing." If God wills it, I'll be there. No, if you want it or not, right? So you see this coming into many different cultures, this idea. And everything we think of produces an effect on the mind. So it's as if the mind shapes itself to the object and also the quality of the object. So in all of the things that we could possibly think about, the highest would be thinking about God. So Rajyoga is connecting up with the source. And even though you've got thousands of deities in India, there is also the word Prabhu or Bhagwan, which isn't anyone. No, it's beyond all of them, right? Paramatma is not a particular, there's not Ganesh. Ganesh is not Prabhu, right? Hanuman is not Bhagwan. Yeah? So even though you've got many gods, there's the one that you say, "Oh, Prabhu." Oh my God, right? Oh, Prabhu. So it's, and even atheists do this.
yeah.
And you can tell a few stories. I was listening to the BBC once, and the person being interviewed was Richard Dawkins. He's a famous atheist, very famous, anti-Christian, especially. And this was it was live interview, couldn't change it. I was listening, and he said that he had conducted a survey of Christians. And one of the questions in the survey was, what is the name of the first 4 books of the New Testament, of the Bible? He said only 40% got it right. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. These are the names of the first 4 books of the New Testament, which is about Jesus' life. The Bible is actually the Old Testament as well. So it's not right to say Jesus brought the Bible. It already existed, and his story is part of it. But the Old Testament was from the beginning of Adam and Eve. So anyway, he was laughing at the Christians. They can't say the name of the first 4 books of the New Testament. Look how stupid they are. He's sort of implying that, right? And the interviewer from the BBC, they were very clever. He said, okay, and the Bible of Richard Dawkins is The Origin of the Species by Charles Darwin. That's his Bible, about evolution.
Yeah.
And so the interviewer asked, what is the subtitle of The Origin of the Species? It's about 3 or 4 lines long, the subtitle. But if it's his Bible, he should know, right? So you said that they don't know about the names of the first 4 books of the New Testament. Okay, tell me, what is the subtitle of The Origin of the Species? And you know what he did live? Everyone listening, he said, oh my God, I've forgotten. The number 1 atheist, oh my God. And then he said, oops. And of course, the interviewer just got into him, like anything. So it's like recorded in us something beyond here. If you look at anyone, when they pray, they close their eyes. What are they trying to do? These are some of the things you can ask. What are people trying to do when they close their eyes to pray? Not to look at this world. They know that the answer is not in this world, and they're trying to connect with something beyond here. If you ask Christian where God is, they will point upwards. If you ask Muslims where Allah is, they will say,
Yeah.
that they would do with their hands, right? Well, if you ask Buddhists where Nirvana is, so there's something beyond here that people try to report to. They don't know what it is exactly. So the most elevated among souls is called by different names. God, Allah, and very similar to the Hebrew word, Elohim. Even Jesus, he was from the Aramaic culture. And the word for God in Aramaic, that was the language that Jesus used was Aramaic. He didn't speak in Greek or in Hebrew. He spoke Aramaic, which was the local language of his people. The word God in Aramaic is Allah. So if Jesus ever talked about God, he would have used the word Allah.
First time I'm listening.
They would, but the fundamentalist Christians would not accept that, right? Nor would the fundamentalist Muslims. That they're calling, they would make a lot of gain out of that sort of argument. But everyone, you know what Allah means? The one. The only one, actually, the only one. The only one. And that's in all Semitic languages. And Aramaic is a Semitic language, as is Arabic. or the basis of Arabic, and also of Hebrew. All of those languages of the Middle East, they're called Semitic languages. So they're all talking about the same one, right? And so here I'm just going to, go to the image here. This is very beautiful graphics that this sister produced. So in Hinduism, they call God the Supreme Soul, and in Judaism, God's the light that guides. That's what you'd see in the Old Testament of the Bible, which is a Jewish scripture. Buddhism, the Nirvana is the one beyond illusions. Christianity, they say God is the light, the truth, or the eternal Father. They use this sort of language in the Bible. In Islam, they say that Allah is the light of the heaven and the earth. That's in the Quran. The Jains, they talk about the perfect being. The African traditions, they talk about the supreme creator. Similar, the Sikhs call God the truth, the light for all. The American native tradition is to call God the Great Spirit. And in Taoism, which is the basis of Chinese philosophy, the path that guides. So all of these different traditions are referring to the same one. Yeah. So I've spoken a little bit. I've talked about the connection with the highest one. I've talked about when you connect with something, you start to experience the qualities of that. You remember Dil Kush Toli, and you can taste it. You remember, you remember your mother, how loving she may have been. You remember that feeling, and that is there, it's recorded in you. So when you remember it, you bring that quality up. Then you remember the person that you don't like, right? Because of some reason, some person that is difficult for you. Do you have some difficult person, in your radius, in your, on your radar? Do you have a difficult person on your radar? Yeah. So that when your radar is going beep, 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 you start to think about that person, you start to feel all of the feelings that are associated with that person. So if you are, searching around for something or someone to remember, you can remember the Supreme Being. So here, we'll do that, You ask people, okay, if there is a Supreme Being, like I'm saying, what is he or she for you? What is it for you? What does it mean for you? Because we are Brahmins, we have an answer. But imagine yourself as some Lokik person going lost in the world. Can you remember what God was for you before Gyan? Yeah. Okay, helps to get you free of sorrow. The one whom I could ask for anything. The one I could ask for anything.
I used to worship out of fear. If we will not worship, then something will go wrong.
Yeah, a lot of people have fear of God. So
Mother wasn't young, so even though I did not do the course, she just said that make him your friend and just tell everything.
okay, your mother was in Gyan, and she would tell that God is you have to make God your friend. Okay, that's good. Did anyone have no connection at all with anything godly? Yeah? Pardon? Atheist. Also atheist. Why? Oh, the parents were like that.
No, I was like that. My father used to go to worship in temples, but I didn't believe.
Okay, you didn't believe in temples and deities and things like that. Okay. So you were actually ignorant rather than a non-believer. Yeah? So you didn't accept what people said about God, or you had your own definition. Yeah, that's right. But, I live in a part of the world and here also that it's easier to talk about these things than, let's say, in England. I live in Brazil, which is the biggest Catholic country in the world. And if you don't talk about God, they'll ask you why. You've said lots of good things, but why didn't you talk about God? They'll ask. Very different from, let's say, Scandinavia or Germany. They will, if you say God even once, they'll run, you know. They're afraid of things, I suppose. But in India, it's also, when Daddy Janki was visiting South America, her feeling was, this is not South America, it's South India. Because the people have so much bhavna, so much, especially towards God or religious knowledge. And it's very easy to talk about these things. Very easy. And because, let's say, Brazil is a country, the population is made up of the European colonizers from Portugal, African slaves, and the indigenous people. So the culture is a mix of African tradition, Portuguese Christian tradition, and indigenous people who are from, just living there already. And from all of that mix, you've got Catholics who believe in reincarnation, which is not really something that the Christians will say exists. But the general population talks freely about reincarnation. They understand karma, for example. Anyway, it's very interesting. But if you see all of these different ways of seeing God, they're actually talking about the same thing. The one who is the source of light and truth, the one who's the source of love and peace, the one who is the guide for everyone, the one who is the truth, the eternal Father, different ways of saying the Great Spirit, that is the same one. So we are talking about the same one. So I want you are now students in the course. Please sit nicely. I want you to think about this. God is the source of many things and is remembered as that in different traditions. And if you took all of the traditions as arrows, they would all be pointing to the same source. Just think about this image. Each of the different traditions is like a spoke on a bicycle wheel. the thing that connects the outer rim of the wheel to the center of the wheel, there's a spoke. So each of those spokes of the bicycle is a different tradition. Hinduism, Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, Jainism, Sikhism, Judaism, different African traditions or ways of seeing this great spirit. They are just different spokes of the same wheel. And if you follow these spokes to the center, you get to the same common area. At the edge of the spoke, you have the rituals, the traditions, and the beliefs, the scriptures, and so on. But as you go closer to the center, that is the spiritual common territory. That's where spirituality is. So the difference between spirituality and religions is the difference between the edge of the spoke, the outer edge of the wheel, and the center of the wheel. The center of the wheel has all of the things they have in common. God is light, God is truth, God is the source of love, God is the perfect being, God is this great spirit, God is the supreme creator, God is the one that guides, the light of the heaven and the earth, the same one. So just think about that. Okay? Now, if you were a new student coming through this course, of course, as I'm conducting this experience, I'm also remembering my own connection. Yeah. You see, there are two things. There's a connection and there's a relationship. And the connection is with, wait a minute, where are we? Yeah. So this second part, the first part is, let's say you know this. How does this help you? How does this help you knowing this? So this is like the exploration part. How does this help you? I can't hear you really.
It's removing barriers between people.
No, but what did he say? To establish that the universal God is one. Yeah. It's sense of belonging. That everyone everywhere is remembering the same one. How does that help you?
I I exist because we exist. It's like I belong to you, everyone belongs to.
I belong to everyone and everyone belongs to me. Unity in spite of the diversity. This simplifies my life. It also reduces or removes judgment. Okay.
Between all diversities gives us one single point to connect on.
I couldn't understand.
between all diversities, it gives us one common point, everyone.
There's a common thing amongst all of the diversity.
All the confusion,
Removes all the confusion.
which has to follow, because I know eventually I'm looking for like one.
You can see so much, I really believe that one of the main problems of human beings is that we speak different languages. And so between one language and the other, there has to be a translation. But often the translation does not translate properly. So if we were all really doing the same language, and if we could understand everyone the same language, we would realize that we're talking about the same thing all the time. You know, there are 4 universal languages:
Yeah. That's right.
music. You can look at the same musical sheet anywhere in the world. It's written in the same way. Written the same in China. It's written the same in India. It's written the same in England. To translate a song into musical notes, that language is the same language. So if you're a violin player in China and a violin player in Austria, you're following the same language. Another universal language is mathematics. But if you look at the equations in China and equations in Saudi Arabia and equations in Russia, they're the same. So mathematics is a common language, unfortunately. Music is a common language, fortunately. And the there's also the language of love. Now, people realize when someone is loveful and someone is not loveful. So there's the language of different qualities. Someone realizes what something is peace and when something is not peace. So why do we speak the language of qualities? How can we understand that something is hateful or loving? How can we understand that something is violent or peaceful? How? We know. How do we know? It's something recorded in us. We know that. So it's a chance also to reinforce this idea. The qualities are actually universal. So if you treat someone with love in Afghanistan or treat someone with love in Argentina, they will understand it. So these emotions, not only the qualities, but the opposite of qualities. A taxi driver in Kuala Lumpur and a taxi driver in Sao Paulo, they shout. If you translate what they're saying, it's the same, right? So we realize what a mother who loses her baby in Miami and a mother who loses her baby in Paris, they suffer in the same way, similar way. Because why? Why? What do they have in common? So there is a pool of qualities and the absence of qualities that keeps us around the same things. So that if we were all reading the translations of everything, oh my God, this woman in Afghanistan thinks the same as I do. This policeman in Rome thinks the same as I do, even in spite of the professions, in spite of the cultures, in spite of all of these things. If you go deeper, you get to a common territory in everyone, a perception of quality, and also, therefore, a perception of the lack of qualities. So it's fascinating, actually. So if you understand that we have more things in common than we have that differentiates us, it helps us to get along with everyone. So even though this person believes in something different to me, even this person is different age to me, even this person has a different profession to me or a different social class to me, there's something in common with them. So if I cultivate what is in common with anyone who's around me, then I can communicate, as I was saying before. In Latin, communicare means to work out what you have in common with everyone and use that as a bridge. Okay? So, the fourth language, silence. Fourth language, silence. And here I could give an example if I'm explaining, how what we have in common, which is pretty much how we come to a common understanding of God. I was in if you can make sure that you add some personal experience in your explanation, it's good. It adds flavor, right? So I was in a conference on mindfulness. And mindfulness meditation comes from Buddhism in Sao Paulo. In fact, there's a university there that has a department of mindfulness. It's in Brazil. In Brazil, yeah. I mean, mindfulness is popular everywhere. I don't know how much it is in India because they've sold it as something non-religious. And so there was this conference, and they'd invited different people from different meditation groups and traditions. So there was a rabbi from Judaism. He was explaining what they do meditation as Jewish people. There was a Christian monk, how Christians meditate. They use sort of phrases from the Bible like mantras. There was a Buddhist monk explaining the origin of mindfulness. It comes from a scripture that they say the Buddha wrote called Anapanasati Sutta. That's Pali. Anapana, in and out of breath. Sati, smriti. Sutta means sutra. So Pali is a liturgical language of Buddhists. In fact, there's a group of Buddhist monks here at the moment. There's another program going on. They invited me, but I preferred to be here with you. So he was explaining how they developed mindfulness, what it is. And there was a guy from Baha'i, which is another tradition. And they asked me to also share from our meditation, Rajyoga meditation. So what do we do? What happened was one of the speakers said something very, very controversial. And everyone started to debate in the audience. And what do you mean? It became a mess. In the meantime, I was the last person to speak, right? So they were eating up my time with this debate. So as they kept on debating, the time that I had to speak became less and less and less until finally I only had 3 minutes before the thing finished. So what did they do? I said, look, if we stay in the world of words, there'll be always different interpretations. But in all traditions, there's a lot of things that we do in silence. So I made some gestures. If I do this, which religious tradition am I representing? No, so many. So many people pray like this or like this. What are we doing when we pray? What do we do when we count the rosary? Of course, the Christians have a rosary, the Hindus have a rosary, the Buddhists have a rosary, the Muslims have a rosary. So, in silence, what are we doing? What are we doing when we stop to remember? So, I just stop with that phrase. What do we do when we remember the Supreme? Everyone became quiet, and the vibration of debate finished, right? So you can silence an auditorium if you are in yourself silent. Yeah.
Is this particularly odd, but do all the religions rosaries still have the same number of beads?
No, no. The Christians will have 13. The Hindus have what, 108? The Buddhists also a short one, and the Muslims short one.
As you said, Dhaiji, that the edges are different, but the score is same. What you said is it doesn't depend upon the number of rosary, but number of beads, but the core is same that everyone is chanting.
Yeah.
As you said before, no, the edges are different. The religious edges of the spear is different. The core is same.
The core, that's what I was trying to understand. Yeah, the core is the same. But you know the Christians, they say different things. They will say, Hail Mary, Mother of God, and repeat that. And then the next bead, they repeat the same sequence. And then the next bead, they repeat the same sequence. They're actually trying to connect with the mother. Isn't that funny? Now, I don't know. I think before Guyana, I was in Afghanistan, right? I was in a bus, and the guy next to me, an old guy, he has a rosary. And even when the rosary is not in his hand, his thumb is going like this. The rosary is in his pocket, but his hand continues. So it's become such a habit. So what do we have in common? That's an incredible topic you could take up. Just think about it. What do you have in common with everyone? So the second one is about the Supreme Soul. And now I've got to put glasses on because there's a sort of the light behind me is sort of, and here you could ask, what are the qualities or the attributes of God as seen in different traditions? What do people, we did talk about that before. Love, peace, happiness, remove sorrow, all of the,
Supreme Creator.
the creator, the father, the mother in some places, the parent, the guide, definitely. Not so much teacher, that's more in some traditions, but not all. But the source of truth, yes, is in all traditions. That he has knowledge, that he knows, that he's sort of, what are you going to say?
For the people who believe in God, I think the conversation they will follow. But someone who is atheist, so I just recall that interview which you mentioned. But apart from that, anything can be say for them to have a common understanding of God or something?
I didn't understand the last part. And so this is all when you are using the image, right? So you would introduce the qualities while experiencing them using the image. Got it? So this first step with God in front is very simple. You've talked about the religions and how they connect with the same one, what we have in common. Then you also talk about the connection with God as a source of qualities, and you experience the qualities with them, and then you talk about the relevance of such qualities in life. Very simple, not difficult. It's not a philosophical discussion. It's a practical discussion. Got it? And then what's missing is the relationship. So you connect with qualities and you relate to different aspect of God's role. So in a similar way, very similar, not difficult. You explain, okay, you ask some questions. What does a perfect father look like? If your logic father was perfect, how would he treat you? Tell me. He would be caring, loving, understanding. Yeah? If you had a perfect teacher, what would the teacher be like? Polite? Huh? Loving and lore. Lore. No, I don't. You can't teach with a stick.
He will make tougher subjects easy. Tough subject easy.
Can't hear you. Wait a minute, use this other mic.
He will make tougher subjects very easy.
Okay, he makes tougher subjects easy.
Learning will be fun, easy.
Learning is easy if you have a good teacher.
Whatever this gets you correct, he never points out your mistakes.
Never points out your mistake.
He will tell or at least explain politely and how.
And he explains polite. He will point out the mistakes, but not in a harsh way.
Yeah, I get that.
So, huh?
Love teach students more.
Love, love slow learners more. Okay, okay. Believes in you. He sees your potential. Never forgets that you are also learning. You don't know yet. That's why he's teaching.
Always have eye contact ready.
When he has eye contact teaching, yeah. Baba is incredible, really. So as I said before,
Yes. Give him 40.
so in a similar way you did with the qualities, talking about the relationships. In a similar way, you take people through the experience of the relationships, your experience. Or Baba with the father, you're sharing your experience in the explanation, but you're also sharing your experience in the meditation. So here is really connecting up with Baba as a father. You do it and you help them do it. You're connecting up with Baba as a teacher, you know. And in a similar way, you explore what's the importance of such a relationship with God. It's not difficult, you know. So that one's the father, also the mother, right? The teacher, the guide, friend, beloved. I mean, I've just picked out 6 relationships, but that's quite enough just to get the idea. So you conduct a meditation basically to help people experience Baba as your father, teacher, friend, and guide, and so on. What aspect? What's your favorite relationship with Baba? Huh? Beloved. What else?
The first relationship when I married her for the first time was
As a friend.
nowadays.
Now, beloved. Yeah, that's normally you start to you start to court the person, and then you become.
Once I mother, when mother left the body, I was very sad and sitting in Baba's womb. And Baba made me realize that I am your mother, so I had
Okay, that's what happens, yeah. I mean, I had an incredible experience directly with Bap Dada. And incredible, because I really felt that he was guiding me, literally. When Daddy G asked me to go to Brazil after only 4 years of service in Australia, that I got service started and everything was moving along, and then Charlie came back from England. I started at the centre in the beginning of 76, and Charlie came back in the beginning of 77. So we started the centre in Melbourne, where Charlie's from Melbourne. And so then Daddy G asked me, all of this time Daddy Janky was not being able to go to Bharat because of some visa problem. So I had a closer relationship with Daddy G, because she was the one that allowed the centre to go on. She visited us in Australia in 1977. She must have been curious, what are these brothers doing, you know? In those days, if you remember, Baba talked about the brothers from Australia. It was us, you know? And so Daddy G was the one that asked me to go to Brazil. So I went to Baba, you want me to go to Brazil? He said, yes, you go. What's your instruction? I asked. And Baba said, be friendly. Be friendly. And then he said, if you start talking about Srimad, they will run away. Baba said to me. So be friendly and slowly introduce these principles. And so that really helped a lot. And imagine how you'd feel if Baba himself tells you, Baba, you want me to go to South America? He says, yes, you go. How do you feel?
Where it's like canopy.
And it's true, when I got there, I couldn't speak a word. I rapidly learnt the language because I knew French already, which is similar. And, but every time subsequently, Baba gave such clear instructions directly. I come in front of Baba and I had a tourist visa to go to stay in Brazil. And every 3 months, I had to go to the border and get my passport stamped to come back again. So get an extension on the visa, just going to the border and crossing it back again. And I come in front of Baba, long drishti, and he says, you've got visa problems, right? You imagine, do I say to Baba, how do you know? I hadn't told anyone. I hadn't told Daddy even that I had visa problems. No one knew. I knew. And Baba says, you've got visa problems, don't you? I said, yes. And further, he said, don't just go to the border. And again, how do you know that I just go to the border? He said, go to the capital cities of those nearby countries and get service going. He said, don't stay in the same place, keep traveling around. Over a series of about 6 or 7 meetings, he told me all this. He said, create a centre strong like London, he said. Keep the local people in front because they know their own people. You will always be a foreigner there. So many very useful guidance. So I started to develop that relationship with Baba as a guide. You want me to do this? He wants me to be here. He's aware of what I'm doing. He will give me guidance in every step. Even in Amrit Bela, he will tell me what to do. That's how it was.
How do you get intuition? Enemy or spirit?
You keep your intellect clear and clean. I'll give you an example. We started service in Chile. I started going in there and then got a group of people interested slowly, and then I used to go frequently, and the service started to grow in Chile and then we had a place. And there were in those days we really couldn't send sisters to a place that was new because it was more difficult to get jobs and to find your way. So we started off sending brothers. Then when the brothers were established, they put the sisters in the centers. And that was my model also. So I'm sitting there in Amrit Bela. Comes a thought. I was in Argentina. And the thought was, send this brother to Chile, a Brazilian brother who was in the center in Argentina. Send this brother, send this brother, send this brother. So I talked to him. He said, no, I'm not going to go. Sorry. It's too difficult to get a job and things like that. I'm not going to go. And then there was a time Didi Mohini would come every year. Because after we were connected with London until 1984, when Daddy came to Brazil with Sister Mohini, I asked Daddy, can we make Sister Mohini our contact rather than London, because it makes sense. It's the Americas, not Europe. And Daddy said yes. So Didi Mohini became the coordinator of the region by invitation, not by history. Yeah. So she was visiting. And every time she would visit every place, she would offer Borg as a trans messenger, and she would bring a message very appropriate. So she offers Borg in Buenos Aires, which is the capital of Argentina, in our center. And at the end of the message, can you imagine, I hadn't said anything about my touchings in Amrit Bela. And she calls the brother.
You have to go to Chile.
And Baba said, you need to go to Chile. Don't think, and the message was, don't think that he's telling you. Think that I want you to go. So how do you think the brother felt? I'm going. Let me go. So the practical experience of Baba's guidance is there. Yeah. So these sorts of things I can't forget. I can't forget at all. So you think about your own experiences with Baba, which are unique to you, and put them into your explanation and experience. And how relevant it was for you, it could be relevant for someone else. That's the idea of this course. Make it your own, and then you can convince people. These are your own experiences, and it will come across like that too. Yeah? So, any questions? Sorry. Tade? Okay, he's not here. Okay. Oh, okay, he's coming. Wonderful. Old friend. Yesterday I was remembering with Mrityunjay how was Madhaban Pandabhavan when I first came. I came here first in 1975, just a few years after Brahma Baba left the body. And I was talking to Mrityunjay Bhai, how was it Pandabhavan? And we were remembering how simple it was. And, we would have our meals on the ground. We would sit on the floor to have meals. We would sleep on the floor also, and we would sit on the floor. There were no seats. So the dining was on the floor, the meditation was on the floor, and the seating was on the floor for everything, And the hot water was outside in the cold. So you had to go out with a bucket to these coal burners, coal heaters, and fill up the bucket with water, shake it. So in the middle of winter upstairs, can you imagine how cold it was? But that's how it was, so simple. Madhubam was so simple. One car, one bus, old bus, and one truck from the Second World War. That was it. One bike, I don't know about the bikes, but it was very. And Dadanand Kishore would take us around in that car here and there. Aha. Hello, Baiji. Om Shanti.
One and all, many multi-million time thanks for you for having wonderful time with all our sisters and brothers and given such a beautiful training for them, Rajyoga training. I will sit and speak.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're finished. Today we are finished, right?
Oh, welcome. Today is in.
नहीं सब आज का सेशन है फर्स्ट सेशन
We've just been talking about this one. Shiv Baba.
Like to see Sultan do this.
Man.
Oh, you know. He said, "Kika na." Okay, no? Or we can all sit together
Ada?
because it is busy. It's too busy.
We can turn this off. Unless you want to meditate with Shiv Baba. So say,
So let it be Shiva Baba.
let it be.
पूरा 5 मिनट साइलेंट में बैठेंगे बाद में शुरू करेंगे एक ही गाना लगा दो हेडलाइट का of the first most beloved, most honorable, most worship worthy, most powerful and peaceful and blissful Atma. I am extremely happy to meet our honorable brother, Jane, divine brother. At the age of 22, he got the divine knowledge and he dedicated. He remained Brahma Kumar, of course. And then he traveled across the world He established many centers in America, South America, Central America, and many part of the country. And he inspired a lot of sisters to dedicate and take charge of the organizations. And he is also member of the managing committee of the international body of the organization. And he has trained several brothers and sisters. How many sisters you have trained, brother? And he has written many books also. Yeah, and he addressed several international conferences, both in Mount Abu and in different part of the country, including ORC and in South India. And I'm very happy he take out his valuable time from his heavy schedules, and then he made it possible to meet all of you, train you, enlighten you, empower you, enrich you, and made a very good instrument in teaching Rajaga, which is the only way to transform the human being, which is the only way to empower the human souls, which is the only way to bring a new world order as per the Baba's vision and teachings. So you are all the instrument to carry forward the Baba's task, and you are determined, you are dedicated, and you got that knowledge already. But sharpening and timely using that wisdom is very important. For that, time to time, we have to upgrade our knowledge, upgrade our understanding, upgrade with our seniors, and that concept should be very clear so that you can anytime, anywhere, in any language, in any discipline, we can speak about the Raj Yoga meditation. Because that is the only answer now to all the human problems, whether it's a small, big, and superstar, well known people, unknown people also. They're well known, but they're unknown. In that sense, we have to teach so that each you are an instrument, and education is a part of our life. Education is the way to enlighten. Education is the only way to liberate, and education, godly education, is a supreme education. And so I'm very happy brother has taken out valuable time and then and taught you, enriched you, enlightened you, and more serviceable output you can give. So he has given input and you have to give output to Baba. Is it that? हाँ किसको किसको अच्छा लगा हाथ खड़ा करे वाह जोर से ताली बजाओ हाँ whether they all given you so much of good impression, and then training is so enlightened them, that's why they congratulate you also. Huh? And I'm very much thankful to our sister Supriya Ben. She spent a lot of time in organizing, managing, and bringing such an eminent brother to this place and giving time. So you were supposed to go to ORC. Then you have cancelled it, that program, I think so. Postponed. Oh, yeah, postponed. So I'm very happy. Since so many days and many months, I am busy in other works. Huh? So in this week, we have to get inaugurated Tadi Wisdom Park, and I am busy in that work. And today we have received about 35 Buddhist monks from around the world, especially from America, Thailand, Japan, Malaysia, and many places really. They came to India. They went to what is that Buddha Gaya, where Buddha meditated, where Buddha got an enlightenment, where Buddha lived for a long time in tapasya. They went there, and from there they have traveled to Udaipur, and from Udaipur straight away they came to the evening. So we went there to welcome all of them, and now they are going to meet Mohini Ben, and it's a good gathering of that also. So Baba, time to time, brings such guests also. I had the privilege and honor of meeting Dalai Lama at least 2, 3 times. One time here in Mount Abu, when we inaugurated the Om Shanti Bhavan, Dalai Mahasaya came there for the inaugural function in and the 2 days before Baba's Avyak Baba in Om Shanti Bhavan. And at that time, the first Universal Peace Conference was held in 1993. So he came in January and he inaugurated that building also. Afterwards, we had another occasion to meet him in Delhi, Talkatara Indoor Stadium. He inaugurated one of the program. And I had the pleasure of meeting him in Dharmshala, Himachal Pradesh, in Dharmshala also. And like that, we have a very good, a divine relation with him. And we had a great respect to our Dadi Prakash Maniji. Whenever we used to meet him, he always asked, how is Dadi? Like that. He was so like Buddhist, about a great respect for India because Buddha was born in India. Buddha Buddha did not travel to around the world, but Buddhist message traveled around the world. And especially in China, I had the pleasure of visiting Buddha's temple, one statue which is 80-ton big one. 80-ton, 80. Such a huge one room like this one, bigger than this one. Room statue was there. I was wondered. Buddha never traveled to China, but the entire China is now adopted the Buddhism. And then one big statue like Vishnu in India, Vishnu's Adishesh sleeping like that on a very long and nearly about maybe about 50 to 60 feet length, very huge statue. I saw that also in China, of course. Thailand, there are like many, every house and every home they've got the Buddha. And of course, Sri Lanka. In many part of the world, but Buddha's name is now most highest population is Christianity, next is Buddhism, third is Hinduism. देखा जाए तो. Is it not, brother? Buddhists are more population now in the world. Muslims maybe it's Christianity more, I think, next to Muslims, and then Buddhist third and last Hindu. Although Adi Sanatan Devi Devatandaru, like that. Am I correct?
Hindus
Yeah.
are the same size.
So now they are here to know something about Baba has touched them perhaps. And one the leader of our group is from Brahma Kumari, came contact in San Francisco. The San Francisco center was purchased from the Buddhist, what they call it, monastery, and they built, converted, and changed it into Rajyoga center. Rajyoga center. So Brahma Kumaris have made many Buddhist center into Rajyoga center, many churches into Rajyoga center. Our Harmony House in New York, that was a church, and then now that is a Harmony House, that is a center, main center in Great Neck. And then in Sydney, we have got a center that was a cinema house purchased and converted into Rajyoga Center. So that is how small places are being now converted and transformed. Not converted is not a good word, transformed. But the world is going to be transformed very soon with your powerful yoga and vibration and thought process. With this, I once again thank you all. Thank you, our divine brother. Thank you, Baba. Thank you, Dadi. Thank you, the most valuable time. Time is money, time is wealth, time is the factor for a transfer. ओ आप सबको खुशी, दोबारा आप सबको बहुत 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 धन्यवाद, बधाई, नमस्ते.